The ancient Egyptians invented the Nilometer. The Nilometer has been used since pharaonic times. There's one on Elephantine Island. They all serve the same purpose, which is to tell Egyptians whether they can expect a famine or a flood. Back in ancient times, in times of antiquity, it was called the Babylon Island because just across the canal here, Old Cairo is there and the Babylon fortress is there. So the Nilometer is inside this little tower here. Let's go. Have you ever seen a Nilometer before? Today you will. I'm taking you to the southernmost part of the island of Manial here in Cairo to check out this Nilometer. I'll explain more about what a Nilometer is when we get there, but yeah, I have the bike. I've actually never even been there myself, so let's go explore together. Yalla bina. All right, welcome to Manial. Beautiful view, right? The ticket is 100 Egyptian pounds. So the Nilometer is inside this little tower here. The other name for this island is Rawda, but everyone just calls it Manial. So this Nilometer was built in 715 AD by a caliph of Egypt, but then in 861 AD it was replaced by another caliph, and that is the Nilometer that stands today. The ancient Egyptians invented the Nilometer, which is a structure used to measure the water level of the Nile. There are several different types of Nilometers. The structures can vary, like inside here on Rawda Island, it is a column, but there are some with like steps that go down in a circular motion. There are some ones with pits. They vary. I think there's like 4 different types, but they all serve the same purpose, which is to tell Egyptians whether they can expect a famine or a flood. Of course, the importance of the Nile does not need to be explained. It is the lifeline of Egypt and has been for thousands of years and allowed the civilization to flourish from thousands of years ago. There's even a saying that goes, Egypt is the Nile and the Nile is Egypt. And Egypt, I mean, most of the population even now lives along the Nile River. I think it's like 80% of Egypt lives along the Nile, maybe even more. So it is such an important part of life in Egypt and has always been. And so yes, this Nilometer would calculate the level of the water with like niches and grooves, and they were able to predict the harvest, the success of the harvest and the coming seasons so that they could be better prepared. So it really essentially helped in their survival for thousands of years. Let's go and have him let us in. So I've just come down to this little step area. With the Nile right here and like boats passing by. But yeah, I just wanted to be out of sight to explain a little bit more about the Nilometer or the Nilometer. And you know, it's unfortunate that I can't film inside, but you know, I think it's fine here. So yeah, this is a beautiful island. It's called Rawda, but really everyone just calls it Manial. And back in ancient times, in times of antiquity, it was called the Babylon Island because just across the canal here is like mainland Egypt, and the old Cairo is there, and the Babylon fortress is there. And so yes, this island was called the Babylon Island back in the times of antiquity. Something that I find interesting is that although the Nilometer has been used since pharaonic times, there is no word apparently for Nilometer, or at least none that were written down in the inscriptions. So for example, they have inscriptions in Karnak Temple talking about Nilometers, but they don't directly mention it. They just give the locations of several Nilometers. One on Elephantine Island in Aswan, and then one north of Aswan at the Komombo Temple. And these are different types of Nilometers as well. So like I said, the one here is a column meter, but the one in Elephantine is different, and the one in Komombo Temple is also different. In fact, I think a lot of the Nilometers were located within temples, and so only priests or rulers of ancient Egypt were able to access these Nilometers, the information, which is just, I don't know, it's very fascinating to me. I love history, and it's so amazing to be able to learn more about it living in Egypt and explore all of these. This is actually the first Nilometer that I have seen, though. I didn't go to see it when I was on Elephantine Island in Aswan, and I don't think I realized there was one at Komombo Temple when I was there. That one is very elaborate, I guess you could say, because there's a long channel that runs into a well, and then it's measured by that well with some steps, I think, as well. So there, like I said, there are different types of structures to measure the water of the Nile. Now, since the Aswan High Dam was built, these devices, these structures are kind of redundant. They don't need it anymore because the flooding has been controlled by the dam. But that was quite recent. The Aswan High Dam was built in, I think, like the 1960s or 70s. So until very recently, Nilometers were very useful to Egyptian society, Egyptian life. And now there are less than 24 known Nilometers remaining. So perhaps more will be uncovered or discovered in the future. But yes, it's there's not many left these days. Anyways, alright, well, this has been an interesting video to record, a little bit all over the place, trying to give you the information and film. I think you might be allowed to film with your phone, but I don't like to film with my phone. The audio is not that great, so I'm glad I found this little nook here to film in. And yeah, it's fascinating. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. I appreciate it. Stay tuned for what's coming next. I'm always exploring more places in Egypt, going for rides, showing you new food, and a lot more. Soon I'll be taking some road trips, soonish I say, come winter when the weather cools and I'm willing to ride my bike for long periods of time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Please give it a big like if you did, and I will catch you on the next one. Ma salama.